Welcome to Spenny and the Nets, a Brooklyn Nets podcast, hosted by me, Spen Harris, and my co-host, Nick Shanman. We're an unofficial Brooklyn Nets podcast. We're not partnered with the Brooklyn Nets, but we enjoy watching and rooting for the team. Well, we've had a history of watching the team. I don't know how much watching that we've enjoyed over the last few years, but here we are, episode 224. Nick, how goes it?
Pretty good. I feel like there's a smudge on my camera. 1 second. Did that help?
Oh, yes, you look a lot more handsome now.
All right, happy to be here. Let's get into it, baby girl.
Yeah, so very eventful Tuesday. Obviously, finals starting soon, and we'll get into that. But
9.5 point favorites. 9.5 point favorites. Thunder first game.
Yes, we'll talk about it. They are the overwhelming favorite in the NBA Finals, but we got some real shocking news this afternoon at around 2:40 p.m. Tom Thibodeau was announced out as the Knicks head coach by Shams Charania. He tweeted the following: "Breaking, the New York Knicks are relieving Tom Thibodeau of his duties as head coach. Sources tell ESPN. Thibodeau led the Knicks to their first East Finals in 25 years, made playoffs in 4 of 5 years, and led Knicks to consecutive 50-plus win seasons for the first time since the 1990s. The Knicks are singularly focused on their pursuit of a championship and believe a new voice will serve as the focus for the organization's next step," sources said. After 5 seasons with the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau is out as head coach.
Is this Tom Thibodeau of the Thinsdale Thibodeaus?
It is not. This is Tom Thibodeau, former head coach of the New York Knicks. Now, we are a Nets podcast, right? People come to our show to listen about the Brooklyn Nets, but Knicks are a crosstown rival. All we've been hearing is how successful this team's been. Well, since when do successful teams fire the head coach who has been a major part of their success?
When he's taken them as far as he possibly could.
And that's what you think. You do not think he was the guy to get them over the hump, because right when the series ended against the Pacers, Jalen Brunson was asked, is Coach Tibbs the guy to get you to a championship? And he looked at the reporter like the reporter had asked the most offensive question possible. He said, "You kidding me with that question?" Yes.
Because he's a respectful guy. When your coach is your coach, you will fight for him, or you should fight for him. When he is no longer your coach, you will move on and hope for the best. Brunson is a class act. Even if you don't like a coach, if you are respectful and loyal and a professional in your occupation, even if you don't like the coach, I don't think you publicly speak poorly on his behalf unless he literally does something blasphemous or benches the best player. Like, Thibodeau did all he could to win. His problem was he is too stubborn. He refused to go to his bench. He tired out his starters' minutes. He was pushing every guy who was almost like 30% injured. Cat looked like he broke his knee every game, and he was out there literally taking minutes away from guys who could relieve him of those duties. The Pacers won for many reasons. One of those reasons was because I'm pretty sure they played 11 deep. I think, and they're not even saying garbage minutes when you throw guys in when you're up 20. I'm pretty sure their rotation went to 9, 10, 11 most nights. You look at the Knicks, who are playing their starters by far the most minutes in the league, to the point of Mikal Bridges commenting on it a few weeks ago or a couple months ago, whenever that was, on being on a team that's now playing excessive minutes to their starters. So I love Thibodeau. I think he got this team to the brink. He got them all the way to 2 games to the NBA championship. You have the roster, if hopefully they all stay together. I do think you bring in a guy who could better use the tools in front of him. That's not to say Thibs isn't a good coach. That's not to say he didn't do a great job. But I agree with this firing. I think he would have gotten more hate if the same thing happened next year again. And you kind of, what's that saying, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting different results. So,
by the way, stupid saying. That's not actually the definition of insanity.
That's why it's a saying. But to conclude, I think Knicks fans should be happy with all the things that Thibs did to get them into this position. But this is now an exciting new door open for them to bring someone else in who could push them even more forward.
Boy, you are optimistic, I guess, for Knicks fans, which is ironic because you're one of the biggest Knicks haters I know. you take a census on Knicks fans and let me know what they think. They are not happy. Knicks fans wanted to bring back Tibbs for at least one more year. They did. And, what went wrong for the Knicks in the postseason? The miracle comeback by the Pacers and Halliburton's miracle 3-point step back to force overtime. Is that Tibbs' fault? The fact that the Knicks really came out with no energy in game 3, and I'm sorry, in game 4, the Pacers won the game 4. They lost game 3. But my point is Tibbs has shown some tendencies to be rigid with his lineups, not playing his whole bench. Sure, that's a knock on him. But he also got Josh Hart to be a borderline all-star this season.
But how could you not blame the coach for a team losing a 14-point lead in 2.5 minutes? How is Nesmith getting up 6 threes? How is he getting up those last 2 even still guarded?
Because a lot of people don't think that he was the problem. They think that the structure of the roster was the problem. And here's what doesn't make – okay, so if you're going to do this, right, here's my thinking of it. A, you're probably going to go for Jay Wright, right? Villanova guy, coached Mikal, Hart, and Jalen when they were at Nova. It makes the most sense out of anyone. I don't like the idea of a Mike Malone. It's too similar to Tibbs. I don't like Taylor Jenkins, the guy with the Grizzlies. These are all very similar coaches, the way that they're loud and they're abrasive. But the way I look at this is you just got within a few games of the finals. So either you're going to make some big roster moves and keep the coach, or you're going to move on from the coach and keep the roster. Now, my question is, if you're Leon Rose and the New York Knicks, are you going to do both? So now there's a lot of rumors out. Well, Knicks aren't crazy about Towns, right? There's a lot of sort of rumblings that players were upset with Towns' defense, and he's just not the right fit structurally with Jalen Brunson, because Brunson's already a defensive liability. So now you have 2. So I guess my question to you, Nick, is now that they let Tibbs go, and do you think that there are going to be major changes made to this roster, in addition to letting the head coach go?
There will need to be moves for sure, whether that's deep into the bench or with one of the big names. I don't see some of these bigger names moving. I know Mikal is getting the most hate right now for being on this roster, which is, listen, I like Mikal on the Nets. He didn't step up to the place we wanted him to step up to, but it is kind of nice as a Nets fan reaffirming that he left the Nets to go to the Knicks, our crosstown rival, and is now kind of the guy being blamed for this roster not meshing just a little bit more to get to that championship. You can't fault Cat. Cat fought his ass off. Cat will look like he was crying every play with his broken knee and his oh my gods, but he's an unbelievable player. Brunson, you can't deny he's a top 10 player in the league now, the most clutch player in the league. And Anunoby, dude, when they needed a big bucket, just don't even forget about the defending. Anunoby's one of the best defenders in the league. When they needed a bucket with a shot clock expiring with a man in his face, Anunoby hit 3 fadeaway threes in the fourth quarter at different games throughout this playoffs. I think Anunoby, even though I'll knock on him for not showing emotion, he's been told to smile. He's been told to. I'm a firm believer that the team feeds off the energy of each individual player. You can be the best player in the world, but if you're completely monotone, you're not giving that energy and that positive vibe back to the other players. So I do think Anunoby needs to be more of a vocal leader, more of a person who's more animated to motivate his players. With that said, you don't want to move Cat, you don't want to move Brunson, you don't want to move Anunoby. So Mikal Bridges, logically being that number 4 in priority, seems like the guy. I mean, Josh Hart seems like the heart and soul of this team. I don't see them wanting to get rid of him. It seems like Mikal. Who else do you really have past that? You want someone like McBride off the bench. You want someone like Mitch Robinson off the bench. Mitch Robinson kept the Knicks in almost every playoff game that they were about to lose that they ended up winning because of his offensive rebounds. I remember seeing a stat at one point, 30 to 40% of possessions Robinson is in, he gets the offensive rebound on a missed shot from his own team. So do I think a major change should happen? Yes. Will it happen? I'm not sure. But to me right now, the fingers are pointing at Mikal Bridges.
What's interesting about Sharania's quote, I can't speak. I'm sorry.
Are you drunk? Are you drunk?
No, I don't know what's wrong with me. I had a migraine last night, and I think I'm still a little disoriented. But the Knicks are singularly focused on their pursuit of a championship, right? What do I see that sentence and think of? They don't really care about youth right now. Deuce McBride's a hell of a player. He's also extremely young. Maybe he's a guy the Knicks move for a more proven talent who can fit in with his team. I agree that Mikal Bridges, not the best stint in New York, and they're in a position where they either have to extend him or trade him. I don't know. I don't know what you do there. Like I said, if they bring in Jay Wright, I assume they keep him. What?
I think if you can get rid of Mikal Bridges for like 2 incredible role players, 3 mediocre role players, like look at a team like the Pacers, look at a team like the Thunder. If you can get rid of Bridges and get like an Alex Caruso and a TJ McConnell, right? You're getting a solid point guard to relieve Jalen Brunson. You're getting a lockdown defender in Caruso who can hit perimeter threes. Now you don't need a Mikal Bridges who's trying to create his own shots. You can't have 4 ISO create your own shot players on the court at one time. It doesn't work.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I don't feel too strongly about that.
But I don't want to. I just picked those 2 guys. I'm not trying to get more white people on the Knicks. I realized I picked Caruso and McConnell. Nothing to do with their whiteness.
I'll tell you this. So obviously, the big name out there is Giannis. I know Knicks fans who really would love to see, him in place of Cat. I don't think it happens. I don't think the Bucks. Why would you make that trade? If you're going to trade Giannis to go full rebuild, you don't want back Karl-Anthony Towns.
You never go full rebuild.
So then I think of, okay, who else is out there? Interestingly enough, Karl-Anthony Towns has a pretty good friend in Devin Booker out there in Phoenix. And Kevin Durant is on the trade market right now. What do you think of a Kevin Durant-Cat trade?
I mean, the Knicks win the championship next year if that happens.
Do you really think that?
Durant, Anunoby, Brunson, Hart, Mitch Robinson is an elite lineup. You'd probably obviously have to give up more for Durant.
Yeah, I would think Cat and maybe a pick or two, or Cat and a player or two. There's no way you do Cat, because Cat's 29 years old. He's 8 years younger than Durant.
What you're saying? So you're saying that the Suns would give something else too?
No, I'm saying the Knicks would have to give something else to get Kevin Durant.
Okay, but the younger thing is a positive.
He's 36. KD's 36. Yeah, no, the younger thing's a positive, but what am I saying here?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I agree.
I guess my point is KD's still more valuable, even though he's 8 years older.
Yeah, he's still more valuable. I don't know though, because KD's valuable for another 3 years at the level he's playing on max.
Yeah, but the Knicks are going all in. That's what you're missing. They don't care, bro. They trade for LeBron right now if you wanted to play there. You know what I'm saying? Like they're gonna sacrifice the youth. They're gonna get rid of the guys who and that is another thing. Like they have a guy in Diate, the French rookie. They have these younger Hook Party, right? Ariel Hook Party. Like they have these young guys that they can develop, but right now those guys are never really going to see the court if they're going to continue to try to go all in for this championship.
The irony of Bridges going back to the Suns to get traded for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I know Knicks fans want some of their picks back now for Mikal Bridges, but you made the trade. You live with the results. Okay, let's get to over the weekend, the Indiana Pacers defeated the New York Knicks in 6 games. They absolutely blow them out in game 6. Nick, you and I were pretty nervous that this Knicks team, well, I was, could potentially come back and beat the Pacers. For a lot of times this year, I said to you, this Knicks team scares me. I don't think that the Cavs and the Celtics are as tough as everyone says they are. I think the Knicks have what it takes to win a championship this year. So going into game 6 and end this series with the Pacers, I was terrified that I was right. And no, I wasn't. They were not going to win 3 games in a row. If they had beaten Indy in game 6 and it got to a game 7, would have been a different discussion. But Indiana handles business. Siakam, not Halliburton, gets Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and the New York Knicks get folded like a table at a Buffalo Bills tailgate. What were the emotions that you were feeling when the Knicks lost in game 6?
Well, I'll tell you this. If the Knicks won game 6, they were winning game 7 in MSG. I knew they were going to win game 5, the Knicks. They weren't going to lose at home. I don't think the Pacers wanted to win in New York. They wanted to come win in front of their home crowd. It did seem like the Knicks played harder in that game 5. And that game 5 scared me because it showed what an angry Knicks team could do. With that said, I wasn't necessarily expecting the Knicks to win in game 6, but I will say I was expecting them to put up more of a fight. I think they were exhausted. That goes back to the Thibodeau minutes of some of these starters. I think some of them were hurt. I think at one point Anunoby's ankle got crunched. Towns was limping a few times from his knee.
Okay, I don't want to hear about the injuries.
These aren't excuses.
Everybody's injured in the playoffs. Every team is dealing with this shit.
Naismith was too. I agree. That's not an excuse.
Of the injury. No, but it's just enough. Enough. Like
it was a factor for why with 5.5 minutes to go in the fourth, Karl Anthony Towns couldn't play defense anymore.
Or was it because they played 100 minutes every single game?
It was a combination of all the above. But also
I got you hot.
Pushing through injuries is what's playoff basketball. You know who pushed through injuries? Naismith. Aaron Naismith.
Now we're getting somewhere.
You couldn't even tell his ankle was hurt. Cat was playing like a little biatch because his knee was hurt. Anyway, here's what I'll say about Game 6. It was the best night of my life. But I had all my Knicks fans texting me to come watch the game with them because the last 2 games I had watched with Knicks fans, the Knicks had won both games. So they started calling me the Lucky Charm. I was not stepping foot into a bar anywhere in New York or Brooklyn. I was watching that at home. I did not want to be surrounded by one Knicks fan. I did not want to hear one cheer. It was me and it was my girlfriend watching the game, and I was standing up towards the end and getting freaking amped. And I'll tell you why. It's not just because the Knicks were losing. That's probably 75% of it. I love good basketball, and I love underdogs. A small market team like the Indiana Pacers that nobody expected. I think a lot of people had them losing in the first to the Bucks. I think I had them winning against the Bucks in like 6 or 7. Everyone else I saw picked either the Bucks or picked the Pacers losing the next round to the Knicks or the Celtics. I find that excitement just as exciting as the Knicks losing. Seeing a guy like Halliburton, who got voted the most overrated player, seeing all these guys like Naismith, who the Celtics got rid of, a guy like Nembhard, who nobody thought twice about, Miles Turner, who wanted out of Indiana a few years ago because he didn't think the organization was going anywhere, a guy like Siakam, who's kind of been like the number 2 or 3 on every team, gets the freaking MVP. That's a fun team to watch. So yes, was it amazing hearing the silence from Knicks fans, watching the Knicks go out because they're delusional fans, always think they're going to be better than they are? Yes. But I got to give props to this Pacers. I will be happy with either team winning a championship, but I think I'm itching for the Pacers right now because they're already such an underdog against this Thunder team. Great night watching the Knicks go down. Hope they don't make it that far for decades to come.
Yeah, I was pumped. I mean, I had a feeling that the way Game 5 went, either this was going to be a close game in which the Pacers lost or the Pacers were just going to fuck them up. And I was actually at my friends who are twins. They had a birthday party at their house, and you know, everyone was outside, but then come 8 o'clock, there are a few people inside. They're glued to the TV watching the Knicks. There were about 4 people, and I think it was 3 women and 1 guy. And the guy was like a diehard Knicks fan. And the women were into it too, but I stayed away from there because I didn't want to, I don't want to be the dick who's the only guy not rooting for the Knicks. So I went to the table with everybody else, and I watched the game on my phone. And I was a little bit ahead of them. So every time something happened that was bad for the Knicks, I would see it. And then 5 seconds later, I would wait for that collective groan and that collective, ugh. And, it was just great. And you were watching with your girlfriend. I have turned my wife into a gigantic Knicks hater. So right when the game was over, I whispered in her ear, I said, look, don't get excited, but the Knicks lost and their season is over. And the smile that just, it just was so big. It was insane. She was pumped. I was pumped. It was this sense of like, thank goodness. Because I'll tell you this, someone who's not familiar with why Nets fans don't like the Knicks so much, let me break it down for you. Ever since the Nets have moved to Brooklyn, we have to be reminded constantly that we are not the most popular basketball team in New York, that we are the Knicks' little brother, and that we will never, ever be as popular and as successful as the New York Knicks. And we have been hearing that for about 10 to 15 years, ever since they moved to Brooklyn. Did Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving choose to play at Madison Square Garden at the Mecca? No, they chose to play in Brooklyn. Didn't work out. Happened. Now the Knicks fans are good again. And if they win a championship, there's almost virtually nothing that the Nets fans could ever say to them. And the one thing we had, Nick, the one thing that Nets fans had was we were in a finals, 2 finals, more recently than the Knicks. And guess what? That fact still holds. That's why I was happy. That's why my wife had a huge shit-eating grin on her face. And that is why we're talking about the Knicks on this show, because they couldn't have that over us. They have everything else over us, but they don't have that success. And great, you got to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's farther than we've been in a long time. Mazel tov. Congratulations to you guys. But, you know, the fact that you go into the offseason, the first thing you do, you fire your head coach. There are questions about if your team can really work together and win a championship. I don't know. I'll be shocked if the Knicks are as successful next season as they were this season. I will be very surprised.
I would be too. I agree with that. We have a question from Christian is a Muslim. Should the Knicks promote Rick Brunson?
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know a lot about the Knicks front office or how their organization works. What's kind of annoying is like any coach that comes on, you know, whether in the names I'm seeing, by the way, other than Jay Wright, I am seeing Mike Malone. I am seeing Taylor Jenkins. I saw Johnny O'Brien, I think, was one. He's a Suns contender as well. I just want to double check that. But my point is, does any coach they hire Johnny Bryant, does any coach they hire have to keep Rick Brunson on the coaching staff?
Are you
Wouldn't you think so? Yeah, I'm asking you.
I would assume so.
Right? So that kind of sucks. Like you take a job and it's like, hey, like the best player's dad has to be one of your assistants.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. I don't know. I don't think they're going to hire Rick Brunson, but that would be funny if they fired Tom Thibodeau for Rick Brunson. All right. We now have the NBA Finals set. As Nick mentioned, the Oklahoma City Thunder are 9.5-point favorites in Game 1 against the Indiana Pacers.
9.5 points. Yeah.
Okay. So let's give our predictions. I'll go first. I think it's pretty simple. Thunder in 5.
No, I disagree. I'm going to say, all right. I'm going to say Thunder in 6. I think the Pacers steal one in OKC. I think they get one at home. But what I'm hoping for is Pacers in 7. If by some miracle the Pacers can continue to shoot at the field goal percentage they're shooting at, Halliburton, did you see this stat, by the way? This popped up on Instagram of Halliburton, if he hits his first shot, his stats versus if he misses his first shot.
No, I didn't see that.
It was insane. It was factual. It was basically if Halliburton hits his first shot of the game, he averages 22 to 23 points a game. If he misses, he averages like 15 points a game. He shoots like over 50% or around 41, 42%. The numbers drastically change when Halliburton hits his first shot of the game. So here's my prediction. Thunder in 6, unless 4 games Halliburton hits his first shot of the game.
Yeah, his stock has been rising and falling, huh? Like after Game 3, he was, you know, he was the man, and then Game 4, I'm sorry. After Game 4, he was, I keep getting Games 3 and 4 confused. Game 4, he was a legend. He had that crazy stat line, 30 points, 15 assists, whatever. Then in Game 5, he plays horrible, and he just looks bad, and it's like, you know, why did we crown this guy? Then in Game 6, I had a buddy who had bet on his over points, and he was texting me with like 2 minutes left. He's like, this sucks. I bet him over 20 and a half. He's got 18. And then he hit that bullshit 3 at the end of the game.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
My point is this. I still don't know with Tyrese Halliburton if he's that guy. He's great. He's a superstar. He is a superstar. But if he were to take this Pacers team over the top and beat this OKC team, then I will have a crazy level of respect for Tyrese Halliburton. To me, this Thunder team just works way too well together. Everyone does their role and is just a monster. Like now Chet Holmgren's getting into the mix. He's a defensive stud. He can block shots. He can move quicker than most big men. He can hit the three. Shea is the most efficient scorer in the league, probably up there with Jalen Brunson. I would say those two guys are just like extremely efficient when it comes to scoring the basketball. Caruso is your Josh Hart, essentially a Jace, except he's better than Josh Hart in terms that he hits shots, he hits threes. Then you have your young guys, Case and Wallace. Obviously, Jalen Williams is a huge part of what the Thunder do. He knows his role. Isaiah Hartenstein. Now you have a big guy who can just pick for everybody. Like, I don't think that people realize how complete this Thunder team is. And yeah, you know, we've watched the Pacers very closely. I think most of us are pretty surprised with the fact that they're this far and that Tyrese Halliburton has been the engine that's taken them this far. But, you know, I saw some moments in that Knicks series kind of ugly for him. And I don't know. I don't think the Pacers have enough to beat this Thunder team. So that's why I have Thunder in 5.
I would tend to agree. I will say this one thing for Halliburton. He should have won Eastern Conference MVP. I love Siakam. I think Siakam went off. I think he hit huge shots. I think what Halliburton provided as a whole on from rebounding to passing to clutch shots to being that vocal leader, I think Halliburton's intangibles far outweigh Siakam's intangibles. I think, and you looked at the voting split, it was 9 voters, 5 Siakam, 4 Halliburton. It was that close. One vote would have swung it Halliburton's direction. I think, and this might be me overanalyzing, you give it to Halliburton in that Eastern Conference final. And Halliburton doesn't seem like a guy who's affected by much, his morale. He gets called overrated, he crushes it. He gets shit on by every commentator, he crushes it. Stephen A. Smith refuses to call him a superstar, he crushes it. But I will say this, if I'm Tyrese Halliburton, I'm the face of this organization, and I don't win that Eastern Conference Finals MVP going into the championship, I'm feeling a little bit chip on my shoulder, butthurt. Now that can go 2 ways. That can go, F you guys, this was I did all this work for didn't even get recognized. Or it could be, you still don't think I'm the guy? I haven't proved I'm the guy yet. And maybe he pushes past that to this Thunder team and gives it all he has and ends up surprising us again and again and again. I will say I didn't like that. I thought it was not in the best interest of the Pacers organization to not give him that MVP. I
don't think that the Pacers decide that.
No, there's not. It's the voters. It's not the Pacers. But my point being, out of just like respect for basketball and the integrity of the game, you give it to the best player all around, not just the guy who had 2 high-scoring nights.
So according to you, the game of basketball was disrespected by Pascal Siakam getting the MVP.
And I love Pascal Siakam. I think he's awesome, and I loved his interview where he yelled at the reporter. I thought that was hilarious.
We're going to test Nick's net knowledge. Nick, how many former Nets in this championship? Thunder versus the Pacers. We've already done the Pacers, so I hope you can get the guy on their team.
There's one. There's one guy in the championship, and he's on the Pacers.
Correct.
And you told me who it was before.
And you don't remember. I'll give you a hint. He's known as an enforcer.
James Johnson.
There you go. Okay. All right. So, yeah, we talked a lot about the Knicks, talked a lot about the finals. Let's get to this call I had with a Brooklyn Nets season ticket sales rep. So, not 6-7 months ago, I get a call from someone at the Nets, and you know, I don't know about you, Nick, but when I get calls like that, I'm very reserved. I kind of act interested, even if I'm not, which I probably shouldn't do. It's probably something that I should stop doing, but I wasn't super transparent with this ticket sales guy. I kind of gave him hope. He also said he would bring me to a game, and I said, sure, I'll go to a game with you, no worries. But you know, in the back of my head, I'm thinking I'm probably not buying tickets. I don't have the money. It's just not happening. And then push came to shove. You know, we get closer to the game, and he was being kind of pushy. He's like, "Do you think you'll make a decision before we go to the game?" And eventually, I just told him, "Hey, I'm not going to go to the game with you. I'm not going to buy tickets. Me and my wife, our current financial situation, it just doesn't make sense for us to purchase Nets tickets, especially when we live in New Jersey and getting to Brooklyn's a nightmare." Okay, great. So then this guy recently reaches out. You know, yesterday he's like, "Hey, a totally separate guy, by the way." works for the Nets. He's like, hey, I just wanted to call you and have a chat with you. We ended up talking in depth about the Nets. And I go, hey, he goes, hey, what do you think they should do this offseason? And I said, point blank, I go, we have picks, use them. Draft youth, get as many guys as you can, see who works out. You know, if you draft 6, 7 guys, hopefully 3 or 4 of them work out. Do that the next few years and just build culture in this team. And I said, what would you do? And he goes, I think that the Nets should trade some of these picks for players. I said, there's no player in the NBA I would be super pumped to get on the Nets right now. You're gonna give me Russell Westbrook? You're gonna give me one of these guys that a team just needs to dump salary on? I don't want Kristaps Porzingis as our best player. He said, what do you think if the Nets were able to get Giannis and Trey? And my answer was, I wouldn't say no to it, but I wouldn't sacrifice all our picks for it. I wouldn't sacrifice our youth. If there's a scenario where you're able to get Giannis Antetokounmpo and Trae Young in Nets jerseys, but keep a ton of those, first round draft picks you got from the KD trade, you got from the McHale trade. If you can keep those first round draft picks and get those 2 guys, of course, but that's completely unrealistic and it's probably not going to happen. So for me, I would prefer to do a real rebuild than to try to bring in Giannis and Trey and build a makeshift team around those guys. What do you think?
I agree with exactly your sentiment of we would still need to keep picks, keep young guys, develop young guys. I'm worried to get those 2, you'd have to trade the house. I'm worried those 2 might not exist in the same reality. If you're telling me we're getting rid of more than we want to get rid of for Trey and Giannis, and we're kind of filling the gaps, like that's a worse team than this Knicks team. That's a worse team than this Pacers team. Like, I'm sorry, I would take Brunson and Cat over Giannis and Trey, let alone Brunson, Cat, Anunoby, Bridges, Hart, McBride. So you're telling me we're going to get these 2 superstars, Giannis, superstar to the nines, elite. Trey, yes, superstar, but I almost think he falls in the Halliburton category where he needs a lot of help. You're muted. He needs a lot of.
I think he falls in the Jalen Brunson category in the sense that Jalen Brunson and Trae Young are great. They are liabilities on defense. Can you win with those 2 guys? And by win, I mean win a championship with those 2. Because don't forget, Trae Young was
to Brunson. That is an insult to Brunson.
Trae Young was in the Eastern Conference Finals a few years ago. Nick, who was his second best player? You can't tell me he wasn't as good as Cat.
Capella.
Yeah, he was the second best player. Wasn't as good as Cat.
DeAndre Hunter. No, I hear you. I think also Trey has fallen off a little bit from 2 or 3 years ago. I believe if Giannis and Trey come to the team, we got to keep guys like a Cam Johnson, like a Clowney, like a Claxton. Keep a pick. If you're getting rid of Cam Thomas, that's fine with me. If you're getting rid of a couple picks, that's fine with me. But yeah, if you're telling me right now we got those 2, I'm not sitting here jumping in my seat. I'm not super pumped. Okay, how are we building around them? How are we rounding out this team? Because when you just got picks in time, the ceiling is unlimited, right? Like the sky is the limit. You really can do anything and go in any direction. Look at the Thunder. Look at the Rockets. Like that's now to me the blueprint that NBA teams should be following. Is it as exciting as building an immediate championship contender tomorrow? No. Is it as satisfying? No. But that long game is paying off for some of these teams in the NBA. So I'm going to lean right now based on everything you said, not going in that direction because I don't think we're going to like everything that comes out of it.
We're on the same page. I mean, just look, we tried the superstar route. It didn't work. And I'm not saying that you don't try that route again. That's not what I'm saying. Because when I was going back and forth with the ticket sales guy, he said something funny. He goes, fans don't want to have their heart broken more than once, and you can't think like that when you're building a roster. Fine, but it doesn't mean you do that same thing you did a few years ago again. And if you're going to do it, it has to be the right scenario. There's no players on our team right now, with the exception of maybe like Trendon Watford, that I would say, and Nick Claxton, because Trae Young's good with the pick. But you can't have Claxton and Giannis on the same court. That doesn't make sense. So the situation isn't right for the Nets to try to build a contender out of scratch, because that's what they'd be doing. They'd be building a contender out of scratch.
I would rather have Durant, Kyrie, and Harden than Giannis and Trey. So, we're doing the same thing but worse?
Right. No, I get you. And by the way, the end of my story, in terms of the ticket sales rep, how I talked about tickets with him, I have never been more transparent with someone over the phone. I'm just talking to you for the first time. Oh, I was like, hey, I do a Nets podcast. We're recording later today. Probably not going to buy tickets ever. Just the commute's too long. But you know what? If you ever want to bring me to a game, I'm around.
Did he give you free tickets?
No, he was super cool. He appreciated me being transparent with him. And he's like, look, here's the number. Here's what it is. Let me know. So I will say, and I'm not going to name any names on here. I'm going to call him John Johnson. But shout out to you, John Johnson. You were a hell of a ticket sales rep. And I can see why people like working with you.
Cheers.
Okay. That's really it on the podcast this week. Super happy the Knicks are out. You know, obviously, a few weeks ago when the Nets, got the 8th pick in the draft, it seemed like nothing can go right for the Nets fans. But finally, we catch a break. The Knicks lose. Tibbs is fired. And now we have the draft to look forward to. And I think that Marks is going to do the right thing, and he's going to get the best pick and the best value at each pick. So kudos to that. We do, Nick, have a special guest coming on hopefully next week. I'm not going to 100% guarantee anything because I said this 3 weeks ago and we had a cancellation, but I'm pretty sure this guy's going to show up. It's a little bit different than last time. But it'll be a really unique perspective, someone we haven't had on the show, so a totally new guest. And for those who are listening, you're going to want to tune in next week because if you liked the content from this week's episode, it's going to be a little similar to next week, but with a much different perspective.
And I'm tired of seeing all these tweets and these posts that this championship's boring because it's two smaller market teams. This championship is going to be fantastic. These are young guys that are the future of the NBA. There is depth on both these teams. There is such entertaining players on both of these teams. Tune in. You won't regret it. 8:30 Thursday, Pacers at Thunder, brought to you by the Fountain of Youth movie with Natalie Portman and John Krasinski on Apple TV.
I'm Spen of Spenny and the Nets. He's Nick of Spenny and the Nick. And that is our show. Thanks for listening.
Peace.